lifestyle.
Giles Brown. Organ speak. Now, it's not about pipe organs, it's not about church music, it's not Bach, Handel, that sort of thing. It's about what it really means to listen to our bodies. And if I'm listening to my body at this moment, it is saying, stop drinking so much coffee and get some rest. But Giulia Enders, the best-selling author of Gut, joins me live on the line now to explain all about the latest book, which is Organ Speak. Giulia, good afternoon to you.
Hello.
Whereabouts are you, by the way, today? Where do we find you? Where are you based today?
I'm in Frankfurt, Germany now.
And just to explain, just to people who don't know you, because you have a bestseller. You had a book called Gut. Now, that's either good or it's something to do with the guts. So tell me a little bit about how your background and your career thus far.
Well, yeah, the gut book was my first one, and it was more sort of like a very lucky accident, I suppose. I was just so into the topic. I read everything I could grapple between my hands, and then it just happened because I went to this evening event where you talk about your favorite subject, science subject. So I did, and a video of that went viral, and literature agent asked me to write a book, and the rest is history, so to say. And then it went, yeah. Because
what you study, what is it? Do you have a title? Is it
medicine?
Doctor?
I studied medicine. Yes. I'm now a medical doctor.
Right.
And back then I was just like this tiny little student, and all I wanted to do was just write a cool book. I didn't even think about bestseller lists or anything. I had no idea. And then it just became this international bestseller and took me places. And that was a wonderful journey.
So having sort of dazzled the world, that must have been quite an experience for people. You suddenly going, well, I really like this and that. And then because this works the whole way.
Yeah, you name it. It's like traveling the world, but with the poop topic. That's a great combination. Because, everyone is at eyesight level when you talk about that. And I really enjoy that about it, too.
I had never thought about that, but you make a very good point. And I shall...
the Queen goes to the toilet on her feet as well. So.
This is absolutely. So this one sold, what was it, 8 million copies or something? It went bananas. What was we saying?
Yeah.
Because I suppose people are, they worry about their guts.
I always jokingly said it was only written for people with the guts. So
So the problem is, it's like being in a band, or putting out an album. The first album everybody loves and thinks, that's a great album, but then you've got to do a second album, and so obviously people are saying, right, we've got gut. We would love you to do another one. So you've gone the whole. What's different about this one? Is it all the organs? Is it brain, liver, kidneys, bits that I can't even pronounce or can't even find? What are we looking at with organ speak?
Well, the thing is, I didn't really plan to write a second book. I just started working in a hospital, and actually I did think this first freaky book travel was all there was going to be. I had something really cool to look back to, and then I just wanted to do my doctorate stuff in the hospital. It just became that sort of moment where I felt like it was pushing against my skin from the inside, like I had something to say. And I knew this feeling already from the first book. And it really was my patients coming in every day and the way they talked about their bodies and me realizing some parallels in my own life. And just suddenly this hobby popped up where I wondered, is there something more we can actually really also learn from the body? How organs solve problems, how they approach topics, for example, like safety or relationships, And then from there, it became this thing where I had this little sparkle in my eye, and I kind of knew what that meant from the first book. So then I decided to write the second one.
Because we are always being told that the brain is a wonderful thing, and we only know a certain amount of our brain. There are certain regions that we don't know what they actually do. Is it the same then? Are we saying that, our organs are also evolving and they have reaction? Again, I know nothing about medicine, okay? And so...
but isn't it so funny? We all live these lives in these bodies.
That's what I mean.
We know so little. And then I think the approach we often have, also from social media and everywhere, is just this optimizing perspective. How can I optimize? How can I look better? How can I be more productive? But here's a funny thing, and I had this in conversation with my patients quite a lot. It's sometimes you can know all the right things, like a to-do list. But let's say you see your spouse as a service personnel. things don't go so well. You can do all the right things, but if you see them from the wrong perspective, from the wrong angle, this is not a good relationship. And I think oftentimes this loud optimization, screaming, health advice from everywhere, they kind of do that to us. They make us lose some sort of interesting connection that we have with our inner worlds. There's not only this outer world. And being successful with my book and traveling and having also financial stability on all these things, I realized, the inner world I create is a pretty big chunk of my life experience, and I hardly ever turn to it. And I specifically now want to just turn to the very concrete, refreshingly concrete part, which is physicality, organs, what they do, how they influence our thinking, but also what they represent on their own, really getting to know them like people, not like something you have to manage all the time.
Yeah, because the thing is, you can turn on your social media and it's full of people doing this, and this works well on the radio, but, they're being in Inigura, they're doing spirituality, they're somewhere in Bali with a fountain, with water and sound bowls, and that's my inner peace. But you don't know. But if you say, well, can you point out whatever, your liver, your spleen, your pancreas, they would go, what? And the connection. So, because, that's squeamish. There's something, the outer self seems to be, he said, touching his beautifully coiffured face. The outer self is all the selfies and the whole. I'm not saying that people should be going, look at my liver, but it's, because when things go wrong, when people start getting yellow eyes or things happening with the skin, which is an organ, people, then when things go wrong with an organ, it's reflected on your outer self and kind of immediately.
Well, not necessarily always. Sometimes it can really take years for you to notice something's going off. It really depends on the organ. Some organs like the skin really want to scream in your face when something's not well. And other organs like the liver can for years just slop on the troubles. And then after the years, you'll finally get to see it on an ultrasound. So it's really different. And also when you talk about like body signals, what kind of things can you actually pay attention to come into contact with your body? That is also very different. A very nice entry point usually can be the breathing, because it's this interesting platform where you can influence your breathing consciously. When you go underwater with your head, you can go and hold your breath, or you can do all these nice breathing techniques. But most of the time, it's regulated unconsciously. So it's an interesting organ because usually no other inner organ can be approached by two nervous systems. Like we can't tell our heart to go slower or our, renal glands to not produce urine when we're in a traffic jam or something. But the lungs, suddenly, we can do both. Both like nervous systems, conscious and subconscious, can have access to it. And there you can have a communication. You can say, am I breathing really shallow and stressed? Am I breathing relaxed and smooth? Like kind of like get a little bit of a note from your inside parts that are more subconscious.
Yeah, I had not thought about that before, but obviously you're absolutely right. You can regulate your breathing. And when you're in that traffic and you could breathe slower or take a deep breath before you absolutely edit it on the way before them. That
makes also habits interesting. Like there's these habits that we just look down on, like, smoking's so bad for you. But I can't stop it. Something like this. But smoking also entails having a perfect, like, picture book breathing technique in your everyday life. And you're allowed to do it all the time when work gets stressful, when you're traveling, when you're overstimulated at a party. Like there's this aspect to it that is actually very clever it's just, weren't these cancer inducing parts to it also. But so understanding suddenly these habits in a different light also sometimes is what's interesting to me.
This is all linked to immune system, nervous systems. Again, know nothing about this at all. So we can regulate our immune systems, or we can regulate our nervous systems, or all my systems just completely mixed up.
The thing is, hardly anything in the body is just isolated. Everything's connected. So there are some ways where you can, of course, influence your immune system, your stress hormones by breathing. For example, a very, very cheap and easy trick is just breathing out a little longer than breathing in. Because when the heart gets all this like freshly oxygenated blood,
see, there you go. You're talking about breathing and coughing, and this is your organs telling you something immediately. Aha! There you go. Yeah.
That's a little bit from my tea that I drank too enthusiastically while talking about
exactly.
breathing.
You weren't regulating your
No, but the thing is, when you breathe in really fast and deep, there's so much oxygenated blood that the heart gets into sort of a stress mode. So if we breathe out a little longer, it just has less of that stress mode. That's it. And we can measure after 1 minute of breathing out longer than breathing in, that stress hormones go down in the blood, and like heart rate drops a little bit, blood pressure drops a little bit. So if you take this and you apply it over the course of a day or weeks and months, and people generally breathe out a little longer than they breathe in, their risk for like stress-associated diseases even goes down. So it's such a cheap thing, but it's just because of knowing your body. And sometimes this can really take off this bit of too much stress during a heavy workday or something. And we just don't know how to use these very cheap tricks at times because we're focused on the outside world all the time.
And also, I suppose the other thing is that our bodies react. I mean, everybody knows about endorphins, stress, dopamines that are produced because of certain situations. I imagine that if we are aware of our inner workings, if you like, our inner bodies, we can kind of predict what to expect, so that if we are going into a situation that might be stressful, or perhaps if we're going to see somebody that we really like, we're going on a date or something, and because we talk about the heart. I mean, we always talk about the heart of my heart. Nobody ever says, "Oh yeah, I love you with all my spleen," or I know I love you with all my. It never happens, but you see what I'm saying here. But so, as everything is connected, do our organs sort of perform stop laughing at the back? Do our organs perform in different ways when we're going to be in certain social or dangerous or romantic situations?
Yes, and they also act differently depending on what we expect them to do. If we think it's really horrible to be just a bit excited when we go on a date, then we make this feeling even worse. If we think, oh, I'm excited, I'm giddy, I have all this extra energy bubbling up inside of me, we make it less bad. So also the kind of interplay, the communication we have with our body and its signals will then again change these signals. So how complicated, everything's even connected that way. But also in a different level, like expectation management, I think is sometimes done way better when you know about your body. In society, you oftentimes have these fantasies, like if you have success, if you're rich, then you'll be happy. And by now, I think most of us have heard that it doesn't really work like this. Successful rich people also get very unhappy sometimes. Or we have these things like, oh, if I have my first child, I have to be super in love right away. And for some people, that's the case. For others, it's not. Or when someone dies that's close to us, some people just can't be sad the way they think they should be sad, like in a Hollywood movie or something. Things the body does, like sadness or really feeling a lot of pleasure or love, sometimes they work differently. And if we understand the more complex ways behind them, we can adapt and not feel like we are broken or weird for not being like on social media or in a movie.
Because we're all different people, otherwise we would all be the same, and that applies
also
to
things work differently bodily sometimes. Like you can't have a success at work and then just constantly be happy afterwards because of that. Why? The body's reward system is also measuring how's my body doing? Is there an improvement in how my body is? And if you've just been stressed up until that promotion and then you get that promotion, but your body's still not in a good place, then why should it reward you all the time just for reaching one fact milestone? Things like these, for example, make more sense when you think bodily about them.
And I suppose the other thing is that the body has to recover whatever it's giving out, the dope or the feel good factor, because otherwise your fuel tank of good vibes is going to run out. Here's something, because I know nothing. Where does the feel good come from? Where's the dopamine? When does the endorphin? Is there a little tube or a little tank of endorphin that I should be opening, or what produces the adrenaline, the endorphin, the dopamine? Where are they coming from?
Good feelings. Good feelings. The good feelings usually originate from the reward system in the brain, and these cells, we really like to stimulate them. We have for ages. Before we had cell phones and everything sparkly, colorful to look at and play around. We had like the fair where people would have like roller coasters. And I mean, we still have that, but it was basically, we now have this crammed up into a tiny screen. But we know all the things to do, how to tickle these cells. We have, for example, high caloric food. That's when they release some rewarding substances. We have music. We have climbing up a very steep hill and then reaching the top and feeling so good about it. There's very different ways. But the interesting part is understanding these cells. Is sometimes really explaining something about how these rewards are very different. For example, when we just scroll through a phone, we will activate cells that release dopamine that make us want to go on and on and on. But we don't trigger cells that then give us this satisfying feeling, which we would have after climbing a mountain or eating a really good meal, like Nana really cooked her best, Then after eating that, we will be like, so good. We will be on the couch and we won't go, I want 10 more plates of this. But with scrolling rewards, for example, we can't stop because we do not get this really nice feeling of, enough. It just doesn't happen because these cells are not activated. And while we are still on the search and the search and the search, we also tire out the cells that produce this feeling of, let's go, let's go, let's go. So after 2 hours of scrolling, that is exactly how we feel. We're like, ugh. But there's no nice to it. So understand these things physically sometimes I think helps me more than just going, I shouldn't be on my phone, Oh, bad me or something.
The thing is, we have so much information at the end of more information now than, anybody ever had at the end of our hand on our smartphone. We've got all the information about what we put into the system, and this is something I've learned as I get older, believe it or not. I cannot still do a party like I used to do when I'm in 20, but also, you need to feed the beast. You need to put the right stuff in. And we have all this information that we know this, there have been enough campaigns, but we kind of think because we eat really badly and, it's that hit, the fast food gives that hit we were just talking about. And we kind of think that we're invincible because we can't see it. If you've got a mole or something that comes up, or your skin starts showing, you think, I've got to do something about that. But we just think we're kind of indestructible until something, until something goes wrong. You're about the guts. We get when the guts start to go, it's a very interesting and like really worrying time. So, it must be annoying for you that people have all this information, or interesting for you. People have all this information, and yet they still will go and have all the wrong things and read the wrong lifestyles. Or is that, what do you think about that?
No, it's absolutely not annoying for me. I'm one of those people, But also, for a gut, for example, to feel bad, it has probably already done so much bad stuff and it just took it, And then after a while, it starts to act up or something. It's really one of my hobbies to make things visible. And with the gut, the whole mission was around, just like make it visible, make people really understand it so they can appreciate it and maybe take good care of it a little bit earlier. And now with the second book, it was more that I felt like there's so much noise also around health in the body that sometimes the good old 5 things everybody knows about, like sleeping well, having a good diet, moving, stress management, and also enjoying things like people and good food. These 5 things we all know. They have actually the best evidence scientifically, with a big distance to all these supplements now coming up, costing a fortune, doing maybe 1 or 2% of health improvement. But really the big chunk, the 80%, are the simple things we know. And I wanted to not have them sound anymore like to-do list things. I wanted them to, they are, everywhere. I can explain them, but maybe I can explain them differently. Maybe I can come from an angle where they don't seem like a stupid duty to do, but something where I can actually get into an interesting conversation or contact or just playful understanding of myself. And then I might be able to do them a little bit more. Like when I write about sleep, I made it all like a sort of like a journey. You follow it and you understand all the different parts, and that sleep is actually a power exchange between parts of the brain that are more ancient and parts that are younger, evolutionary speaking. So suddenly understanding them, giving each other the responsibility for the rest of the night, or what they want to do when they talk about restoring energy, what different perspectives they have on relaxing, for example. Sleep has very different perspectives on what it means to restore your body. And like really just getting to know them, I think then sometimes makes people want to, give a little bit more love to their sleep game and not only having it as a to-do thing to sleep well.
The thing is, because we always think that we're in control of our bodies, we like to think that we are piloting our bodies through life. But that's the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is doing all the stuff like breathing. It's keeping things. It's pumping. It's getting the heart doing. It is keeping the body running. And we tend to think that we know everything. And
it's also quite often overriding the conscious. It's like, you go with your nice little thoughts of what to do and how to be, and I'll just do this. And then the whole body just does what the subconscious says, because it's usually way more powerful, just as our emotions. And when the conscious always eagerly tries to cling on having the upper hand, it just loses a great possibility of just having a really good cooperation with this powerful subconscious. And it can do that. And we know that, for example, from emotional regulation, when we see that if people get smarter about their feelings, they don't have to work against them and then, lose, but actually really use them to their advantage and really go way further than just always trying to push down your emotions or something.
And I suppose that leads to that. And then we talk about, the British talk about the gut feeling. That feeling when I don't trust something, or I'm not comfortable with something. But obviously, if everything is working like it should be, and you're in an environment, and you're getting the sunlight, and you're getting the good food, and you are, taking that time out, then you will feel good. I mean, we've all had these mornings we get up and for no reason, we got up. We can get up one day and think, I can't bear this place. I don't want to do it anymore. I feel like rubbish. And then you get up the next day, and you can be walking along the pavement, and then bam, and suddenly you feel great. Now, maybe that's just me, but and you feel in tune with the universe. I'm not saying, little birds land on my finger and I sing to them like the Disney, like the Beauty and the Beast princess or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? In my case, very brief moments between coffee, but there is a point that you are sort of putting out the right energy. Everything is working. You've got enough sleep. You've eaten the right thing. And so your organs are kind of rewarding you maybe as feeling because you've been doing the right things.
Yeah, definitely. I always like to think of this feeling, this underlying feeling of how am I, as the feeling I have when I'm in the bathtub and I go underwater. I close my eyes, my ears are muffled by the water. And what do I feel then? Without all these visual signals from outside world or thoughts coming in, just this underlying body feeling that I have. And I think oftentimes this has quite the big influence on our general feeling. And we will think it is about me, brooding, was my boss angry with me today? Or did I pay this and this? How bad is my life? But maybe we're just thinking that because some organ is troubled. We actually really don't know. And there's good evidence for this latter version of it to be true.
So, okay, that is my mind blown. Okay, so you mean that various organs can be letting you know by sending out signals to your, so you maybe have this thought about, you have some strange thoughts, and it's your pancreas saying, hello, or it's your liver saying, you know what? So that can, our organs can influence our moods in a way that we haven't even grasped yet?
Well, with the gut, this is a very famous phenomenon. Yeah. We know about the gut-brain axis, and we know that even the certain types of bacteria that reside in the large intestine will have some way of influencing our mind game. Like they can influence if we're a bit more prone to being stressed, or if we get really anxious when we don't sleep well. There's an influence of this very physical aspect, microbial aspect on how we feel and what we think. And so other organs as well, we see now this huge trend about strength training in the muscles. And there's also great research on how muscles and how the muscles are doing actually influences the brain and the susceptibility to certain mental diseases. So the brain is at no point this separate, isolated master up in the skull that just reigns over the stupid mountain of flesh beneath it. The brain really is just an organ of connection, connecting all sort of dots and information and nerve fiber and trying to make patterns and sense out of it. And of course, some input comes from organs, and some organs maybe have a greater influence at it than others, sure, but they all sort of send some info up there to, make it make sense.
As you are the expert on gut, can I just ask you a question? just completely left field, because I've got goddaughters, and they are forever drinking the things to help get, clean their gut, the microbiomes that all the big companies now produce. Those like little milk things. You're supposed to drink one in the morning. It says it's got good bacteria. It'll help you. Is that a very good marketing? Would you thing, or are you? Should we be throwing these little yogurts that have got microbacteria in them to clean our gut? They're very big in Spain. Put it that way.
Well, there's evidence that probiotics do people good, and actually, we have used probiotics since for ages, really, in every culture on the planet. Even if they had no idea of each other at some point, have probiotic dishes. So we don't necessarily have to buy them from a supermarket. We can also perfectly make them at home. But if we don't make them at home and we just have like sterilized, ready-to-eat meal from the freezer, which we then put in the hot oven and have no good bacteria at all, then I don't think this is a perfect idea, because we need some good bacteria in our life, but we don't have to buy them at a pharmacy or supermarket. We can also, have fermented foods wherever and however else. And also importantly, prebiotics. We don't need to take strange, like company manufactured bacteria to us necessarily. We can also have food that feeds the good bacteria that are already inside of us. Prebiotics are just fiber. So having vegetables, having fruit, and then having starches like potato, pasta that you cool down once after cooking, because that enriches them in their prebiotic content. Starch crystallizing and so on. But really having them cool down, you can even reheat them for later meals. Doesn't matter, but just after cooking, having them cool once will make things better food for good microbes.
Here's the thing as well, because again, you deal with the organs. I was thinking the other day, I was listening to somebody talking about how they put a battleship. I mean, I'm a history guy, and they were talking about a battleship and how everything went in the engine room and the boiler was here and they had to do this. And the guy said it was all twisted, but it kind of worked. If you think of, if everything was in a straight line in our bodies, we'd be about sort of 80 foot tall, wouldn't we? Because the way that it all is compact and it fits and it works is a miracle of God's, whatever you want to call him or her, God's engineering. Because you think about how everything kind of fits in the right place. I mean, people, my kidney is killing me, but you must. Does it always fascinate you that everything kind of works and is in the right place at the right time?
Well, I'm thinking about numbers now, because you said 80 foot, but I think when you take microscopically all the folds and like crypts of the gut, just those, and you'd iron them out, you'd be at 7 kilometers. I mean, I think that's about like 2 or 3 miles.
That would make buying shirts for me very difficult, I think. That would
They could be really small but long, because I'm talking as length in a lion, sort of, not in a human width, but yeah.
What are you hoping that people will discover and realize from your book, Organ Speak?
I just really want them to look down at their body with a bit of a different feeling. And then also this sensation of being alive. We sometimes lose track inside of how crazily precious this is, And when I was working in the hospital, oftentimes I had patients who were really sick or who were about to die, and they knew it. And suddenly they realized the value of that again. And I just thought, I want people to know this a little bit earlier on, and not only have the feeling they have towards their body dictated based on whether they function in a certain way or not, but just really by understanding. Well, now I'm a bit cheesy, but this miraculous thing of being alive. I like that. I want people to feel that.
The reason things are cliches is because they're true. That's the reason things are cliches. The book is called Organ Speak, what it really means to listen to our body. It's by Giulia Enders. If people want to find you, and listeners, you can go online and order it straight away from our website. If people want to find you online, internet, do you do Instagram? Where can we find you online?
I don't have social media. I've been in my room cave writing for the past 4 years, and I'm just crawling out discovering this new world that I missed. No, I don't have social media, but I'm somewhere around YouTube and stuff. You can see videos. But
I was going to say, how did you find the time? I'm going to run out of time. How did you find
being on social media?
No, didn't I? There we go.
That's it.
Yeah. Listen, it's been fascinating to speak to you. I'm looking down at my body now, and there's some things that need working on, but that's another story. The book is called Organ Speak. It's by Giulia Enders. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.